Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of the Blacklist Season 1, Episode 7, Frederick Barnes. This is a very interesting part of the rewatch, mostly because Frederick Barnes is dead. I know, we're spoiling the episode like 7 seconds into this video.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to watch episodes where they have really big guest stars in it, like Robert Sean Leonard, who I absolutely love from Dead Poet Society. Is the first thing I
Yeah.
ever saw him in, and then seeing him play a role like this it was so great the first time I watched it. It was great on the rewatch, a great guest star. But yeah, a connection to season 10. No, he's dead, and not only is he dead, but if he was alive, he still wouldn't be coming back. The
No.
connection to Reddington and sort of, oh, I feel betrayed that Reddington, was working with the FBI and the task force, like that wouldn't have been there.
No, this was such a personal sort of blacklister who had a very specific motive for what they were doing, and we'll talk about this episode. But of course, one of my favorite ongoing blacklist things to just get really upset irrationally about, the Takoma Park House as making an appearance in this episode. So we get to talk about that some more, everybody, and try to claim that this is one of the biggest plot holes out there for the Katarina is Reddington theory that exists, and one of the reasons why I don't believe that is the case. But before we go further, hit that subscribe button. We have many, many more Blacklist rewatch videos to do because, guess what? The show's not back until 2023. That is a long ways away.
Yeah, it is. And every Friday we are going to have a new episode up. And as soon as there is season 10 news, we will also have a video on that. Some filming news, hopefully soon. I don't know. We'll have that here for you. And the best way to make sure you don't miss it is to hit that subscribe button and also follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We have some new pictures up there that are a lot of fun. So yeah, we would really appreciate that.
Let's just start with a little bit of an aside because, as somebody who, we watch a lot of TV and
A lot.
a freakishly large amount. And it's always fun for me to go back and watch something and then recognize somebody who you didn't recognize like the first time around. And then you become like that gif of like Leonardo DiCaprio, like pointing at the television screen. And like, that was me rewatching this was like, oh, that's Ashley from The Boys in the subway, slowly dying. Like, could she not call Homelander to get her out of this pickle?
Right? What I did like about this episode is that after everything that happened in the last episode with Tom and Liz and her not trusting him, that there was still some sort of resolution after that, because I was like, okay, obviously I've watched it, but how difficult was their relationship going to be after that? Because that is a huge mistrust for Liz to be like, I'm going to bring you into the task force and have everyone interrogate you. And now in this episode, they're like just back to normal, where she's like, hey, let's redo the dining room and we're all good. And she is blaming it entirely on Reddington, or she's just like, you set all this up. I can't trust you. My husband is perfect. Everything is exactly the way that it should be. And he's like, what can I do? I showed you what I could show you. I led the horse to water. You didn't want to drink. Cool. We'll revisit this a little bit later on because it'll always come out.
Reddington is the master of manipulation, but I think with that, he's also the master of knowing that, okay, I can't do anything more here. I can't manipulate a situation where someone is just going to steadfastly believe something that's not true. So I'm just going to wait for the next situation to come up. But even with all of this, we still see, Liz may be the profiler in the room, but Reddington is so good at reading people when he is basically just like, you tell me to leave, I'll leave. I won't come back. You won't hear. It's like, he knows with every fabric of his being that she's not going to do that because she can't do that. He's doing so much with the task force. It's like, it's irrelevant whether or not Reddington would actually leave because he knows it's not even an option.
Yeah, and the biggest question that he could have asked to put that doubt back in her head is sort of like, how did Tom know to find the box in the floor? Like, she came across it by accident because of what happened with the blood and the carpet and pulling it up and everything like that. But she came home and he had the box in his hand. Like, how did he know to find it? And why didn't she question, like, how did you find this kind of thing?
It's a situation where when you have those feelings of love, you just choose to ignore the basic logic that exists right in front of you, including
love goggles.
The love goggles are very, very real here. Like, she continues to talk about it this episode now, how doting he is as a teacher, how much he cares about all his students, all this other sort of stuff. Still, why is Tom built like an action hero? You're not questioning that. I'm sorry, I'm not getting over that part of it, but it is something right in front of you. You know it is there. You do not question it.
Listen, people can be fit and do all kinds of stuff like that. YouTuber Dr. Mike, who is an actual doctor, who is also super fit. You know, sometimes it's just the way it is. Yeah. People care about their fitness.
Let's just never talk about...
I'm not one of those people that care about my fitness, but, you know, it happens.
I don't either. It's just like, one thing Liz never mentions, Tom's love of the gym. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that stuff out there. I'm moving on, but...
Okay, we got to talk about the house.
The house.
So, in this episode, we saw that Reddington bought this house where he said, you know, I watched my family grow up in this house, which was kind of a interesting, strange thing for him to say anyways, because the only kid that we really saw that would have grown up in this house was Jennifer. And usually if you're in a situation where you're like, I watched my family. Yeah. Family usually means more than one kid grow up. You're not, you know, I watch my family grow up, I'll watch my spouse grow up. No, your spouse has already grown up. It's your kids. So usually it's, I watched my daughter grow up here. I watched my son grow up here. Yeah. Oh, I have more than one kid. I watched my family grow up here. It was a very interesting sort of choice of words.
And I think this is going to lead to a lot of questions we'll talk about in this video, and I think we've all sort of talked about for years, is just like, how defined was the plan by John Bokenkamp and John Eisendrath when they were doing this episode in season 1? Like, how much did they know? How much of that is consistent with what we know right now? Because yeah, the line of, I'm ready to say, we raised this family there. It's like, yeah, you watch your kids, you watch your family grow up. That's typically more than one person. Like, that's just the way naturally that it goes. But the thing there's just things that stick with me so much in all of this. Because yeah, we saw Jennifer outside with the bubbles.
Yeah.
We in the Chalo in season 8, and went back and looked a little bit at this. They show Katarina watching Jennifer with the bubbles from almost the same angle that we see her within this episode, in sort of like the flashback that's within Reddington's head. But Katarina would never say that she watched her family grow up there. She didn't raise her family there. This is Reddington's family, like the real Reddington. Like, she was just sort of there on occasion. So that line does not chart at all if this Reddington is Katarina Rostova.
Well, yeah, because Jennifer's not her daughter.
Yeah.
Is not an adoptive daughter, is not a biological daughter, is not family to her. So this comment just doesn't make any sense.
No.
If that's who it actually is. And I mean, looking out the window at her blowing these bubbles, I mean, anybody could be standing in that window doing that.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense because Jennifer is not her daughter. And if it was some sort of situation where she became Reddington and was still living in this house as Reddington, how did Reddington's actual wife not know that this is not her husband? I mean, plastic surgery is great and all like that to change what somebody looks like, but she would absolutely know that this is not her husband.
Yeah, I don't buy that she would be oblivious to that at all. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, there's a few different things to think about from this scene. It's like, also, is Reddington saying, this stuff about the house to be performative? I don't think so, because, Dembe knows the truth about who he is. I mean, we don't know how much Luli knew or didn't know or any of that stuff. But ultimately, I have a hard time believing he would just say things for the sake of like giving Luli, of all people, closure when Reddington never gives closure to anybody unless he absolutely has to.
Absolutely.
The other thing is you sort of see him like rip the door frame at one point and sort of like look at like, the little notches of how much somebody has grown up over time.
Mm-hmm.
Katarina would never, like, the real Katarina has no reason to go into this house and do that. Like, would she even know about that? Like, that just also just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just for the amount that Katarina was ever in that house, it just doesn't feel like they knew where they were going with this story back then.
Yeah.
And then by the time they got to season 8, they were like, oh, we'll thread it all back. No one will really go back and look. But I mean, we're the fans of the Blacklist. Yeah. We all are going to go back and look.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about this show. The mystery is so deeply threaded.
Yeah. This is what we do, people. Like, this is, you see Reddington blow up this house and he's sort of just like, it's so painful. The memories there are so painful that it's better if this house does not exist. It's okay. Whose memories would be so painful that they would need to blow up this house? Is it Katarina because she like hung out there on occasion with this man who she had an affair with? I don't know. This is where I get truly psychotic and I start to go the full, okay, this Reddington is actually the real Raymond Reddington's brother sort of thing. Because it's like, what if this brother lived at this house at some point? Maybe he raised a part of his family there. Or if nothing else, he would consider, Jennifer his family because it would be a niece. And then maybe something terrible happened to him there. I mean, none of this may matter because this all could be, as you just said, the writers not knowing what they were doing way back when.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff that has changed from season 1 forward. Even just Liz's age when all of this sort of happened changed.
Yeah.
So it's just, I just don't think that it's Katarina, and this episode really makes me feel like it's not. And I know that the commenters are all going to come for me for saying that, but it just doesn't add up.
It really doesn't, and that's the thing. Everybody can believe whatever they want to believe about who Reddington is, and that's fine. But I want to live in a world where the Blacklist has implanted evidence that they have been consistent with throughout the entire show, and that eventually we will get some answers. Because this is the painful part of this. We are entering season 10 now. They have basically said that, the story of Liz Keene is done. They have given us full closure on all of that. So we don't know if they're ever going to address any of this stuff again. Like, we may never know who the real Raymond Reddington is. And I hate to say that.
Yeah, I always thought that we would find out conclusively in the series finale, which will hopefully be years and years away from now.
Yeah.
But I actually don't think so. I think that this sort of ambiguous ending of season 8, where I know there's lots of people that feel that was absolutely definitive. It wasn't until Reddington actually says the words, I'm Reddington, I'm Reddington's brother, I am Katarina, whoever he is, nothing is definitive. Everything is up to interpretation. This was all, thoughts in a mind, which is not a reliable narrator by any means. Oh. I just don't think they're ever going to give an actual, real definitive answer, because giving what they gave at the end of season 8 made a lot of the fan base very happy, made a lot of the fan base very angry. If they end up walking that back later on, they're just going to flip it, where now this part of the fan base is going to be really mad and this part's going to be really happy. There's no winning after what they just did.
That's what makes a rewatch of this episode in particular so difficult, because like the whole ending of this episode is about the house being blown up. And so, we can't like talk about Frederick Barnes without talking about the house. But because you guys don't have a cohesive answer as to what really happened here or who Raymond Reddington really is, we're left in this spot where we have to question all this sort of stuff. And if you guys had come out and said, okay, it is Katarina, like that's 100% the case, then we could just sit here and say, okay, this is just a giant plot hole and they changed their mind. But because they haven't done that, here we are. We all need to be carted away after watching this episode again.
Yeah, I mean, ties to season 10, no, I just don't see anything here that would be part of the Marvin list and Woojing and what he's going to have on that list. I mean, Barnes is gone, and even if he wasn't,
Yeah.
there's just not any real connection to Reddington where he would be out for blood.
All right. Well, we will be back to discuss more of season 1. Hopefully we will have some more Blacklisters soon that could be relevant or interesting. I mean, it is nice we came off of GINA, who could theoretically come back. So
yeah, and if you're looking for another great murder mystery for the summer, we're covering Only Murders in the Building. It's halfway through the season already. If you haven't watched it, it's a really quick watch, but there's really good mystery, and we're here every week talking about that. So watch along with us.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you here next time.